Okay, so my ranking of Final Fantasy games that I've actually played, we'll put 14 in the no opinion. So I was playing Final Fantasy 16, and I was thinking, man, I'm not enjoying this. Where would it sit? And that's what made me think of doing the ranking. So right now I'm gonna kind of be moving these around as they go, but I'm gonna start with 16 and I'm gonna put it in the C tier. And the C tier is gonna be this is like did not enjoy. That's would not play again, obviously. And I would say like there might be a battle between the S tier and the A tier. I think B might be was okay, would not play again. But so now when I think of was okay, would not play again, for me that would be Final Fantasy 12. Because, you know, Final Fantasy 12 was a really solid game. I enjoyed the worlds. I really did enjoy exploring the world, seeing the new worlds. There were a lot of characters. It had a lot of magic. It had a lot of charm. But I didn't really enjoy the battle system. Once you figure out how to basically automate everything, that's actually pretty interesting on its way up. There's not really much to it. And I found it made the boss battles really lame. And I find that with a lot of Final Fantasy games where with the battle systems, either the battle system is good for the bosses or it's good for the mobs. And you can't really have both. I find like Final Fantasy 7, 10, the turn-based ones, they tend to be really good for the bosses, the more strategic ones. But then dealing with the mobs is boring. Now 15 and 16, the more real-timey, or Final Fantasy 12, where it's kind of real, well, it's real time for sure, but you're not controlling your actions in real time, but it's still happening in real time around you. I find those are more fun for the mobs, which is the majority of the time. But then when you get to the bosses, it's like, well, there's not really that challenge. So now Chris is saying you always get 4 and 5 mixed up. Which one has the Dark Knight? Dark Knight was Final Fantasy 4. That's the one where you start off as a Dark Knight who defects, where the king doesn't like your ideas, and your character is realizing what they're doing might be bad. 12 is indeed impressive, but sort of forgettable at the same time. Had that Dark Souls, for want of a better word, interconnected level design going for it. Yes! And the battle system was nice when you got it going, particularly for random encounters. Yeah, I really, really did like when I think of Final Fantasy 12, I think of getting to this really large town area, maybe 3/4 of the way through, and just running around, exploring the multi-levels. They really used the power of the PS2 to populate the worlds big time. And, there's just so much hustle and bustle. Like, the opening town that you're in really has that, like, Moroccan, Middle Eastern... It feels like you're playing an Uncharted game. I love the different districts, the jail cell, the markets. I like the color palette of it. The music was decent, but a bit forgettable. But I think they were going for that more of a open world. Let's not draw too much attention to ourselves with the music. Same with 16. But there's nothing really that memorable in the actual story of 12 that would make me want to go back and play it, and I don't want to play the combat system. So far, that's this tier list. Was okay, would not play again. 12. Would I put anything else in that was okay, would not play again? Let's see. I'd probably put 15 there. What the fuck? Oh, that's because I just clicked on the window instead. Clicked on the window on the streamer instead of the actual... I'd put 15 in was okay, would not play again. Again, the combat was kind of fun for dealing with the mobs, kind of flashy, and kind of flashy, kind of fun for dealing with the mobs. But then when you fight the bosses and stuff, I don't know. It all felt like there was no way you would lose. What I felt like in 15, you could often just close your eyes and you could just kind of like attack for a while, hit dodge every once in a while, but there was always a way out. You could always teleport away, wait for your magic, and wait for your health to come back. So there was no There was nothing felt like it was dangerous, which really sucked. And I feel like that in 16 as well. Now, 16, if I compare 16 to these ones, 16, to be honest, I only got about a quarter of the way through, maybe closer to half. There just weren't enough characters. There wasn't enough, because, when I say there weren't enough characters, 12, they're not the most memorable characters. Some of them kind of run together, but there's enough of them, and there's a bit of spark there, and there's a bit of charm, and they seem to, there's like people to interact with, and different backstories to see. 16, I felt like was just a lot of this main character, and he was just like, always talking like this. That's right. And I get it. He has a tough time. He needs to get through some things, but always like that. And they just have that really generic kind of Japanese anime video game face. Now, Sid, amazing voice actor, and really emotes, really brings a lot to the table, but he's not in the game a lot. They always kind of find ways to separate him. You agree with 12, though? You wish we were a little higher in both or less? Yeah. But, I mean, that was probably the biggest jump away from what they had ever done before, and I think they still pulled off an interesting game. I'd be interested to think like people that love the MMORPG if that was perfect for them. So there's no tension about entering dungeon-like areas in 15. Early games often made that delve tense as your resources were drained, making each encounter its own challenge to retain your strength for the boss. Yeah, like when I think about playing Final Fantasy 4, 9, 6, 7, you go out into the world and you're like, I need to stock up because traversing the world, I could die. I could, I hope I have a tent. There's not just like, every time you save, you get all your health back, and it's like a checkpoint system where, you die, so you lose your progress, but you get all your health back. That's another fucking thing about Final Fantasy 16. When you die, when you're fighting a big enemy, a male. I just had a live caption come up. God, I hate that new feature YouTube is forcing down my throat. In Final Fantasy 16, when you die, say you get the boss down to half health and you die, the boss stays at half health, you get full health and full potions. So what's the fucking point? As soon as that happened and I realized what the system was, I thought, well, now there's no tension because I could just chip away at this boss forever. I mean, I don't think I ever died more than once, so maybe they send you back. Like maybe there's more of a punishment after that, but I don't know. I never got to that point. So hang on. Let me move my camera a little onto my face. That's a little better. So yeah, I'd put 15 in that category of, and 15 is similar to 12 where I enjoyed exploring it. I really loved in 15 how you start, you're pushing a car, the guys are bantering, you're in the middle of the desert. You're learning about the characters, you're getting a bit of atmosphere. Now, what happens is the first place you get to is a little gas station, and you start meeting some more characters. You meet that girl with the breasts and the outfit with the breasts. And that seems like, finally we've gotten somewhere. We're in this gas station. And then the next place is like a little outpost. And then there's like a little resort. And it's so different from kind of like the folksy gas station and little outpost. All of a sudden it's like really high end. And they just do such a good job of kind of showing you this different lifestyle. And then it goes on from there, and like every place you go to is a little bigger and bigger and bigger. So that was interesting, but I found the combat kind of boring. The overall story, I just didn't want to go back to, and the ending was weak because you felt like, this is where the other game is. There were two games slammed together to create that game over the 10 years and the two different directors. And when you got to the ending piece, it felt like, holy shit, I feel like I'm playing a totally different game. A lot of Final Fantasies do feel like that. Final Fantasy VIII, the ending feels like, what the we're in fucking space right now? Final Fantasy IX too, they cycle through the ending villains so many times. You're like, what the hell is going on here? Final Fantasy VI, slams two worlds together, two very different worlds, and it is a fucking masterpiece. So let's put 9 is so funny and so charming, but it's a little too long, and and mind you, I'm saying like what stops it from being truly, truly special. Yeah, it falls off a cliff at the end, and I would put 9. Oh god, I clicked on the wrong one again. So I would put in this category here. This is like pretty great, almost perfect. I'd say almost perfect, almost amazing. I don't know. Almost prefect. I was almost a prefect. Still, yeah, exactly. But I would go back and play 9, especially with that mod on the PC version. They were like really clean up a lot of the visuals. It's so nice. So yeah, I would put like pretty great, almost perfect for that. I think I'm gonna need another category. Can I add one? Because these no opinion, like this should actually just get the fuck out of here. I did not enjoy, was okay, would not play again. I feel like I need one in between S and this one is what I need. Add a row below. There we go. Pretty great, almost perfect. Maybe. We'll see. I like this. Use that one too? For what? So 9, pretty great, almost perfect. I would put... Now, the hard thing for me is 4. 4, I'd probably say pretty great, almost perfect. Oh, the mod. Yeah, the mod is really, really good. 4, pretty great, almost perfect. It still shows its age in that it's, it's the next generation. It's the 16-bit version of the 8-bit era. But they're starting to tell deeper stories. And there's some great characters, like really memorable characters, really emotional moments. The even like the whole thing of like, oh, you're kind of the bad guy and you're realizing you're not the bad guy. You're realizing you know your character doesn't want to be the bad guy, and then that incredible moment where you are battling against yourself. You overcome, and the game is so cool because it starts you off and you have this like crazy good powerful power as the Dark Knight, I think is what you are. It's been so long. And the game just lets you use it, and it's just so fucking good to like smash people with it. And then you fight yourself, and you learn the only way to progress is to like just defend and take that aggression, and you overcome it. And you emerge from this cocoon as a paladin, I believe, who has the power to heal. I think you go from the dark to the light. It's so fucking cool. And you have like your close friend, and you're dealing with the king, and it just felt like there was a nice variety of not a variety, but there were definite layers. There was a variety in the depth of the characters. Big variety of characters. All right, it's Final Fantasy IV I'd put there. The 13 trilogy that's like a lot to think about. I would say 8. I think I would say pretty great, almost perfect. I'll rank these amongst themselves too. 8, I also thought was, when I first played it, I thought this was going to be one of my new favorites. The first 25% of the game is so strong, and I was fucking loving it. I love the atmosphere. I loved how quiet it was in the start, other than like the big bombastic cutscene that people expected, because 7 was such a leap forward with CGI. But just kind of hanging out in that school and training and going out into the world. I like the dynamic between the different characters. It felt like there were sort of like frenemies and rivals, and just, again, like, I looked forward to exploring new towns, learning new abilities. really, really quirky, memorable music. That's something that 16 really lacked for me. I couldn't fucking remember one song from that game. The music was nice, but I just felt like there wasn't anything to grab onto in 16, where the music was just, it was strong, but it wasn't memorable. It didn't have that Uematsu thing where, like, man, when you put on Uematsu's music in any of those games, it just jumps out at you, and every song is its own beautiful character. So Solace, you'd say probably the most pure example of a retro Final Fantasy game, that would be 4 or 9? Probably 4, eh? It's incredibly mold breaking for RPGs, come to think of it, in virtually every other RPG you start at the bottom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for 4. Wouldn't be surprising but for a change. We all kind of felt that during the music stream. Oh yeah, Uematsu stuff I think we ended up ranking him above Koji Kondo. It's him and Koji Kondo at the top. Alright. So 7, 6, 10. 10-2. That is a did not enjoy. And the thing between ranking 10-2 and 16 is I played all of 10-2 and I fucking hated it. I fucking hated how obnoxious it was, how it felt like it was just using the corpse of 10 and the success of 10 to try to get some money. I will say that the combat system was pretty inventive and did lead to the combat system of 13, where it was much, much, much better. Yeah, it has some decent music. It actually, all the music is just pretty good. But the experience of playing the game and the story and the characters, it felt like your little cousin was visiting and you had to watch the most obnoxious cartoon. But then they would try to stick in these serious moments of like, oh yeah, here's what Titus and Una are up to. It's like, fuck you. This has nothing to do with that. And it felt like there was nothing to tie moment to moment to moment. It was like, it wasn't like this happens, so then this happens, so then this happens. It was just this, then this, then this. And that felt like for all the dialogue, for all the story events, it felt like it was such a mishmash of total bullshit, other than the combat system, which was pretty intriguing. But it was also they hadn't figured out how to make that more fair to play. There was too much going on with that combat system to like properly control it. So 10-2 I really hate. 16 I was just bored with, so I'd rank it above. Like 16 was neat to tour around, but it didn't have the charm of these ones. So I put 16 over 10-2. No direction other than wanting to capitalize on the success of 10. Yeah, they had the failed movie Spirits Within, starring Alec Baldwin, and then they merged with Enix. So when you do a big merger, you want to have a big year, you want to get those stock prices up. They do it. Okay, so I guess it's time to look at the 13s. Oh, what's this one? Is that 12 RW? Okay, we don't need that. 13 Lightning Returns. I would say this is not just okay, would not play again. This was really good, and I had a great time with it. The combat system is really strong. And it's also really inventive. They already had an amazing combat system in 13. Probably my favorite all time in any RPG. And then 13-2, they kept it similar, but got rid of some of your partners and made it more of a monster collecting thing, but kept the same combat. And then Lightning Returns, they just totally changed it again, and again went with like your clothes being the combat style. I remember getting so into the combat system of Lightning Returns. And it's a real kind of like it was... I mean, I had some emotions with Lightning Returns. I feel like when I was at the end of my run, because it progresses over 13 days, you realize that you are doing side quests to decide who gets to survive like the apocalypse and go on to the next life with you. And there's this weird kind of ticking time bomb. So, and there's like, yeah, it's exactly like Majora's Mask. There's a time limit. You explore these little hubs. It's all about the side quests with a mainline quest in there. And it was, yeah. So, but you know, when I did go back to play it again, although I really I kind of enjoy playing 13 the more I play it, because I know what to look out for, and I know what to rush through, and that it's gonna get better. Because it has such a rough start with the combat. It just like takes fucking forever to open up, even though the combat's the best part of the game. But Lightning Returns, I just couldn't get into it again. Maybe it's because it was like so side quest heavy, so it has a bit of humor to it to balance out the thing of like fighting God and all that. But yeah, I'd put Lightning Returns there. Evidently some kind of direction. Someone was trying to push an interesting concepts or tend to, however, they failed in the delivery for sure. Yeah, she did feel a lot different. She just felt like the character they needed. But she had been through a lot. Now, I would put... this is where I might need a new category. Because I would put 13 as strong with big flaws. Because 13, it's, man, there's so many fucking problems. Like, half of me loves this game. When the combat finally opens up, the strategy, I spent so much time, it really scratched that itch, or made me itchy in that part, that I have with like XCOM and Warhammer and strategy games. Of like, you know, I felt like I never had as many options as this game when it comes to dealing with a boss. You're like, how do I compose my team? Because you're constantly switching between these different fighting formations of like, you need to build up the stagger, but you need to get that stagger bar up, but you need to make it so the stagger bar doesn't go down too quickly. And then once you've staggered them, you need to like do a lot of damage, but in between all that, you're like flipping and defending, and it was such a beautiful balance, and it made the boss battles so fucking fun, and it made even the lighter stuff, the mob stuff, pretty interesting too. And then 13-2 is basically the same combat. They just ditched all the other party members, and it was just the two of you, and then different monsters, which was kind of like a cool way of getting you to interact with the world and the enemies, and that was kind of neat too. So I put 13 there, and I guess I'd probably put 13-2 probably right behind it, because actually I don't know, that's hard. I don't know which, I'm gonna have to come back to that. 13, when they're talking about the world and the fal'Cie and the l'Cie, they sound so familiar, so similar. You need to come up with a different name. And when they're talking about all the lore and everything, I found that so excruciatingly boring. But when they're talking about the concept of these characters have been hit with a mark, and the mark says you're again on a time limit, like Lightning Returns, like Majora's Mask. You have this death sentence where you're, in the end, you're either going to turn into a crystal or you're going to turn into this crazy zombie creature, and you're going to die either way. You're going to cease to be who you are, and you need to find out what is the what's the task that's been given to you with this mark. And if you complete that task, your reward is that you still are ceasing to be yourself because you're just a crystal, but at least you're not, at least you're like a pure looking monument to yourself, as opposed to a shambling monstrous freak. Now, those characters dealing with that was super great. You know, like there's a father and his son. There's like Snow really loving Lightning's sister, but being this almost like a parody or like a satire of the typical hero. And I mean, Troy Baker's so good as Snow. And Lightning's dynamic with him, like, my sister has this douchey boyfriend who loves him and just wants to be nice to her, and she just can't stand him. That felt, you know, kind of real. That felt pretty real to me. And then Vanille, I mean, yeah, it was kind of silly with her, like, squawking and sex noises and stuff, but she still had some interesting moments of, I guess she was kind of like comic relief. Hope had his mother die and then had to work alongside a guy who he thinks was responsible for his mother's death. All those parts, super fascinating, super intriguing. And just like the rest of it is like, yeah, you constantly, if you didn't stop the game and reload it so that you would get these loading screen info dumps and info reminders, you kind of didn't know what the hell was going on in the game. Because they often would make it, some of the information would be hidden, like the story information. So, strong with big flaws. This is basically just going to be like the 13 category. So I'd put, is there somebody fucking talking? There is, for this like Xanarkand.
Since toxin got to you, but still alive. Praise be to Yevon. Praise be to Yevon.
Sorry to skip Xanarkand, but it's distracting. Yeah, this is the base. I guess I probably have to put, no, I put Lightning Returns and was okay, would not play again, because I would play 13 again. There's a lot of funny moments. There's a lot of great boss battles. And I'd probably play 13 too again, because, again, yeah, boss battles, moments, but it's definitely, this one feels more of a drag. At least 13's pretty direct. And Claire, it's funny, like I was so into Lightning as a protagonist. When I finished this one, I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to get to play as Lightning anymore, this is terrible. But then Sarah was so great to play as, had a lot more life to her. I mean, 13-2 felt like such a response. They go, all right, well, people didn't like that it was so narrow. We'll have huge open areas. We'll have lots of side quests. We'll have lots of towns. Claire is not, you know, Lightning was very kind of cold, and she was basically a cloud. And like a hot, slightly more feminine version than Cloud. In 13-2, Sarah's nicer, and, you know, more like, oh shucks, more personable. So, let's see. Now I'd have 6, 7, and 10. I think that for me it would just go like this. I mean, for my personal list, I have to put 10 and 7 above 6, of course. Where I flip them is like, I think 10 is the better game because I enjoy, well, let's talk about 6 first. I mean, 6 is such a leap ahead for the Super Nintendo. It has a huge cast, and they're almost all super interesting. From Gao's abandonment issues to the Samurai Warriors, his nobility and you know, his past, and Celeste trying to kill herself. I mean, the opera scene, the villain winning and the world ending halfway through, and then picking up the pieces for that. So like the multiple branching story paths, just being on the raft and choosing your directions on the raft, and really buffing up all these characters, the characters that you can lose or never see, like never discover, the different abilities you get for Gao, and I think the ninja, maybe, yeah, the different things you can throw. It's the steampunk nature of it. It looks so fucking good. The music, I definitely put it above these ones, where these are pretty great, almost perfect. These have bigger flaws. I mean, 4 is just old. And actually, I haven't played all of 4, so I definitely put 4 above that one. I'm a little bit unknown on the rest of this game, actually, so maybe it's kind of stupid of me to have it here. 4 is kind of a wild card. 4 might drop down to the 13 tier. I'm not sure. Where would you guys put 4? But 8 was so strong until it wasn't. I fucking actually hated. 8 is almost in strong with big flaws for me, because I hated this like time travel bullshit. These different characters are playing as. I didn't like that, and I really fucking didn't like when they're all like, wait a second, we all know each other. We all had amnesia. Like, why? Just to connect them? That's stupid. And it doesn't add anything. I fucking hated that so much. But I loved everything up to it. God, that pissed me off. Whereas 9 is like almost all the way good, and it's just sticking the landing. Power of friendship. That's right, was the answer for 8. So, I mean, 9 is definitely ahead of 8. 8 is almost down here. But it's so much stronger than, like, 13, because it's pretty great from the beginning on. Whereas 13 takes, like, I think it's a 13-chapter game, and it takes about 11 chapters for the combat to finally open up. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, 6 is up here because there's nothing really wrong with 6. Other than, like, if I was going to play it again, I'd have to play it on an emulated version so I could speed things up. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I think 10 and 7 are very, very special, personally, and just for what they achieve wise. I mean, oh man, 6 is just such a huge journey that is so intriguing the entire way through. There's so, like, the characters have these long character arcs that work so well. The boss does as well. Just the whole world. Anyway, so when I look at 10 and 7, if I had to think of, like, well, if I could only play one, it would be 7, because I just gel so well with 7's music and depressed atmosphere. Even if I find, like, the combat kind of boring compared to 10. 10, there's so much strategy. And you're cycling people in and out to make sure everybody gets experience. When you're fighting, like, the bosses, when you fight in 10, it's a true turn-based style. And I know that, like, 7 had the active turn-based style because that's how they were trying to separate themselves from Dragon Quest and other RPGs. But it was annoying because you're like hustling and trying to balance all the plates and, I've got to make sure they attack, but I prefer the strategy of turn-based RPG action, and I find that when you're just kind of spamming out moves because you don't want to waste time, it takes away that strategy. Where I much preferred in 10, literally spending, 5-10 minutes thinking about one move. Where, okay, if I use an item here, then that'll change my turn order, because you can use an item faster than you can do a big attack. Or you see what enemy is going to be attacking you next, or like you see the next like 6 or 7 moves, so you think, well, I better focus on that one, maybe try to stun that enemy, or maybe try to disable them. They have a big powerful attack coming. It was just so fucking interesting. And also you had what do they call that system? It wasn't a materia system, that was 7. The sphere grid. There were so many options. You really, it was like the job system where you actually had a lot of input on the path your characters take, so you can make them your own. You can try different things out the next time. You can, there are like pluses and minuses. You actually make meaningful decisions when it comes to upgrading your characters. 7 had that with the materia, and in that sense, it was like a very customizable job system where you could, everyone could be anything in 10, and in 7 too. It was like the materia did all the magic, so you could have Barrett be a healer, or Cloud, or whatever. It didn't matter. And then there were these interesting combinations of the materia. It wasn't as strategic as 10, but it still had some strategy to it. But in the end, it was always going to be, well, just attack people and then heal when you need to, and then try to do some more damage. But the thing with 7 is not about the strategy, it's about the fucking world. It's about how it was just a special project. It was like Star Wars. It was like, how are they combining CGI polygons, multiple different polygonal models depending on where you are, little simple Lego looking ones, really, high res ones in the CGI cutscenes, medium res ones in battle, the way they would just combine things. Like, it was like when you watch Star Wars and you had practical effects, you had matte paintings, you had live action, you had like fucking claymation or like stop motion, and it was all a magic trick putting it together. And I felt like that's what 7 was. Like, when I deleted Final Fantasy 16, I put on Final Fantasy 7 again, and it starts you off in black and kind of in space. You're like, what the hell is this? And then you end up looking down at the world, and you start off and you're like the seed from a flower, I think. And it pulls out and you see Aerith, and she's the most important person. And you're looking at this like speck of plant life in a dark, it's nighttime city. And as you pull out, you're seeing like, I don't have 7 Remake on the list. I hate that game. I think that's outside. I would put that in did not enjoy, or was okay, would not play again. I do think the combat system in 7 Remake is fucking awesome. It has so much strategy while retaining their abilities from 7. I love the combat system in 7 Remake. I hate how the characters talk. I hate the story. I hate the atmosphere. I think it's like it has no understanding of what 7 felt like. So, just in the intro of 7, you see this flower in the city, but it's a dark city. So you see that contrast between, and that's what the game is all about, is about like technology and progress, destroying the planet, right? And then, as it's like quickly zooming out, you're like, oh, looking at these billboards, and you're just getting, and you're looking at like steam engines and the cars and the people, and you're getting such a flavor of Midgar and these slums. And then it keeps zooming out and you're like looking at the plate and the plants, like the power plants and the Mako reactors and like the crazy lights and the fog, and it's just so much to take in. And then it zooms out and then it zooms back down in again, and you're when it comes down to see that train, especially when it's cutting in and the train is going, and then it zooms in and it goes from being CGI, and all of a sudden you see these like polygon guys that they mix in with the fucking CGI, little polygonal guards, and then the camera lands and then everything shifts a bit, and they've now gone from CGI to a pre-rendered background of that CGI image. Like, when I see that, I just fucking love the movie making magic of that. It's like, that's why the first Jurassic Park is so interesting, because how did they blend in the CGI so it didn't look fake? Some of it looked fake, but a lot of it looked really real. And the practical effects and the original Star Wars, it was so new and so inventive, so creative. And I just appreciate all those like little moments and the way they crafted all that together. 10 has that as well. I mean, it has beautiful pre-rendered backgrounds. It has beautiful cutscenes and it has beautiful polygonal models, but it's not so much the magic trick that 7 was. And just the, walking around the slums in 7, hearing Heart of Anxiety, Cloud and Tifa's relationship, the nostalgia, the crazy journey Cloud goes on to his like anti-hero, fake hero's journey, and it's a game that gets pretty crazy as it goes on through the end. I mean, and constantly following Sephiroth and watching his arc and him seeming so powerful, the way that there's an enemy on the map that everyone else you're dealing with is your level, and then you come across this one enemy that can just wipe you out in a second. you realize, oh, we're fucked. And then them showing how powerful Sephiroth is, that he kills this thing. And you come across it with like a fucking, I think it has like it's like stabbed in the head with a tree or a sword or something. The characters and the group dynamic. So I enjoy the vibe of 7. I like that. And the comedy too. I mean, there's so many like little light moments. The mini games, the golden saucer, the marching mini game, the strategy mini game on the mountain with the different units. When you need to go get those batteries. You need to climb and climb and climb and get those batteries. Going up the stairs in Shinra, the motorcycle chase. It's just, yeah. It was just so nice. I remember being like, and also being kind of like a teenager, and games were so much more limited back then on the PS1. So when you got to the Golden Saucer, it was like genuinely pretty interesting to play those mini games for me. But as an overall game experience to play over and over and over again, like if I could only play Wannabe 7, but I can play both. And 10 has a better battle system. It has better character progression in terms of like literally leveling them up. It has a better overall story. It's paced better. It's trying to think of the end of 10. It never gets too crazy. I mean, for a Final Fantasy game, it doesn't get too crazy. In every Final Fantasy game, it always has to go to like such an epic finale where you're fighting these giant things. But for Tidus to come to a different world, to meet Yuna, and she seems so noble but so young, and the way she carries herself, and then to realize this path that she's on, and like these young kids kind of coming to terms with that path. Meeting Seymour and him. I fucking love when that first, what was it? It's like there's that first big battle. Either Seymour is the one attacking with you. There's a big battle you have to do on like a beach, and then all these people are like, fuck it. That's right, Sin, right. And then when Yuna goes out there and then does the sending, when she like sends all their spirits away, and it's like really beautiful, really, really spiritual. Yuna's such a great character. Tidus is a good character for the audience. Auron is so cool and so kind of mystical, and I think Chris, you were talking about, somebody was talking about in our Discord how Auron never feels like he's a part of that world, but I think it's because he's in Tidus's world, and he's in that world, and he knows your parents, and he's in the previous generation. Yeah, like it was just, if I had to think about playing any of them multiple times, I'd be excited to play 10 multiple times because it's paced so well. Even Blitzball's kind of fun. And then, whereas like 7 kind of drags, I would almost hesitate, even though I love it so much. I don't need to play the ending. 6 is long, but paced pretty well too. 9, we've talked about it. 9's got the weird ending. 8, I'd play the first half. 4, I'm sort of losing my Final Fantasy cred talking about 4 because 4 is the one I've played the least out of everything on this list, and so 16. 16 did not enjoy. I think I feel pretty good about this, and I don't have any more to add. So here are the ones I have no opinion on, because I haven't played them. 16, just did not enjoy. It's not bad like 10-2. It's not obnoxious, but I just could not find that enjoyment. 13, Lightning Returns. 12 and 15, okay, but would not want to play again. 13, I put Lightning Returns ahead in this category because it had the most fun moments in it. 12 was a bit more blah, and 12 and 15 were both blah, but 12 at least had a bit more sparkle to it. And yeah, 13 and 13 too. Strong moments. Big moments. Some of my favorite all-time moments of Final Fantasy, but also some of the worst moments. Goes a bit nuts after Macalania, but each sequence feels strong, stands out so it doesn't wash over you in a wave of madness. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's like so many of the pieces feel so strong, so memorable, and they really are their own thing. It really feels like you're watching like a series, a TV series. Like one great season. And then ranking these ones together. 4 I have to put there because, I don't know, maybe if I played more of 4, it would be bumped down, so I'll kind of stick it as an outlier here. 8 and 9, so good for most of it, and 9 more so than 8. But 8, I'd say I like the beginning of 8 even more than 9. But, I mean, 9 was just, the characters are done so well. It's so funny. Too, there's like such a great mix, and this is all in that Uematsu era too. All this stuff, so memorable. And then 6, you can't fault anything with 6. It just didn't have the vibe of 7 that I loved, and the magic trick of it. And then 10, just pulling it all together. All right, well that is my list. So I'm going to save or download these. Did you guys have any other differing opinions on this? All right. I'm going to see if I have enough time to maybe play some Disco Elysium. Maybe. Okay. All right, well, that's it for this recording of it. It's the big list. I'm pretty happy with that. I was inspired to do it because of 16, and maybe you might drop 13 down. Yeah, I mean 13. That's saying how good the combat was for me that it is this high. But I would rather play it than 12, no question, or 15. It's not that long too. But I mean, I think I spent like fucking 4 days fighting Bartendaloos 2, but enjoying it so much. It was like Dark Souls. A lot of the boss battles felt like puzzles you had to figure out. But yeah, I feel pretty good about this list. Time to get opinions on the bottom tier. Oh yeah. I mean, all I know about them is 1 was the first and basic. 2 introduced the leveling system where you had to like use a melee attack to get better at melee attacks. You had to use magic to get better magic. You had to take damage to bring up your like body rating or your defense rating, so you could find ways to exploit that. And then 3 had the job system. 5 also had a job system. And I mean 4, this is a spin-off of 4. 14 and 11, I don't really have any interest in playing. I think you'd rather play 12. I feel like your input is actually important in the game, considering the automated battle system. Yeah, interesting. And 5 was the most difficult. A lot of Final Fantasies are not difficult. That's true. I would say 13 was very difficult. Sometimes 13 too, and sometimes Lightning Returns. But yeah, 7, if you're just kind of going through the main story. Although there were some battles in 10 that I really felt like I had to consider my strategy. One of the castles in 9 is hard too. I think it's like some kind of fucking weird upside down castle, or like one of the final dungeons or rooms or castles is, there's some special rules that kind of fuck with you. And then I think they like take away some of your abilities, or they change your abilities. They like reverse them or something. 4 had some tough moments too, because it was still in that more unforgiving era. Alright, I'm going to end the YouTube video now. Thanks for watching, if you did.